Morning, even afternoon, we got a banger for y'all today, baby. We got a video from T-Dog Smitty. I'm gonna put his YouTube, Twitch, etc. in the description of this video. Be sure to go check him out. This is a super well done video. This is the entire history of Rebirth Island, and I'm gonna tell you, I learned a lot from this video. If you like Rebirth Island, you're gonna love this video, and trust me, there's gonna be some stuff in here you didn't know about. So if you do enjoy this, hit the like button, hit the sub button. Most importantly, be sure to tell somebody you love them. I'll catch you in the next one.
Rebirth Island is back.
So this is the entire history,
While we may only have a little bit longer to wait for the fan favorite Resurgence
right now,
map,
it's officially
known
out.
for its fast-paced gameplay and high kill matches to return to Warzone's sandbox, let's take a look at how we got here. The long history of the iconic map that's actually a lot older than you might think. To find the origins of this modern classic, we're gonna have to go back. Further, and even further. We're going all the way back to 11 years ago. 2013. The classic Black Ops 2 is in its prime. While multiplayer fans are absolutely loving the game and its fresh take on things like create a class and rank mode, Zombies players are starting to feel disappointed with their map selection, leading the community to a new low point for the time. Making matters worse, Treyarch's current Zombies lead, Jimmy Selensky, who oversaw all Zombies content since its inception in World at War, began distancing himself from the mode, and eventually leaving the company a few months later. The shakeup, however, provided an opportunity for the campaign design director, Jason Blundell, to move in with his team's first official Zombies experience, Mob of the Dead. This map may be solely responsible for Black Ops 2's heel turn when it comes to perception. With a creepy vibe, satisfying Easter egg, and just downright fun gameplay loop, Alcatraz Island would become an iconic set piece for the franchise. Which is why years later in 2018, now head of both campaign and Zombies, Jason Blundell would see the return of the fan favorite Zombies map as a remake, Blood of the Dead. While aesthetically the same as the original, Blood of the Dead expanded the playable space, stretching further out onto the island. Meanwhile, that same year, with the sudden rise of Battle Royale genre, with games like PUBG and Fortnite, Call of Duty would begin dipping their toes into the genre as well. Led by the multiplayer dev David Vandehar, a new team at Treyarch would put together Blackout, a Battle Royale experience for the first time on the Call of Duty engine.
Still one of the most underrated BRs out there. If this launched free to play, cross-play, all that, I think it would have swept.
With its map acting as a collage of fan favorite Treyarch maps like Raid, Firing Range, Nuketown, even with some Zombies maps thrown in for good measure. And while Blackout was loved by many, it did have a few limitations and design choices that held it back compared to Warzone, which would release the very next year. For one, there was no gulag, so once you die, you're dead. The looting system, at least on console, was a mess, and the map itself was just too big and open, incentivizing players to find a building and hunker down, aka camping. And after a few months of this, Blackout garnered a cult following, but most of the casual player base moved on to other games. Those who stuck with the mode, though, would start to notice some weird things happening on the map. Most notably, just off the coast appeared to be Icarus, the plane that Mob of the Dead characters used to escape Alcatraz back in Black Ops 2,
did not know
leading many to wonder and speculate what was in store for the next
enlightening me, bro.
season. And on April 2nd, 2019, Alcatraz was added to Blackout to overwhelming support, being much smaller than the core Blackout map, and without as many long stretches between POIs, the game sped up immensely. But that wasn't even the biggest selling point. In addition, when playing on Alcatraz, the rules of engagement were completely different. Unlike traditional BR, where you spawn in a plane or helicopter passing over the map, now your squad would spawn in portals surrounding the island, each high enough that you could wingsuit to any corner of the map. Plus, when you die in-game, as long as one squad mate stays alive, you'll respawn in those portals after a short countdown.
Originated
Sound
in
familiar?
Blackout?
It's basically Resurgence before Resurgence.
I had no idea.
This kept each match fast-paced and avoided the dreaded mid-game lull that killed regular Blackout's reputation among the adrenaline junkies who just wanted to get in as many gunfights as possible. The map itself was given a complete makeover visually. Not only was it set during the day, but most of the brutal blood and gore was removed, improving visibility and making it a little more welcoming. That said, the core layout of Blood of the Dead remained, aside from clearing out a few paths, and it's even a bit surreal to walk around the area without being chased by zombies. Over the next few months, many players would grow to prefer
I just realized,
this
bro,
map,
I don't know anything about Rebirth Island. It's actually insane.
Faster pace compared to the main game. And while post-launch support for Blackout eventually ended at the release of 2019's Modern Warfare, Alcatraz and its impact on the franchise was far from over. March 10th, 2020 is a day that lives in almost every COD player's head rent-free. It's of course the day that Warzone was first released, taking the world by storm. While immediately more successful than Blackout, probably due to the fact it was free to play, Warzone stuck with the larger Battle Royale format, 150 players dropping onto a massive map. The gulag and buyback systems were working wonders in keeping players in the game and fighting until the last circle. But there was a certain quiet to the mid-game that some players still didn't care for. Warzone would continue out the rest of Modern Warfare's life cycle with Verdansk as its one and only map. And with COD's yearly release window quickly approaching, players were eager to know if Warzone would continue to be supported through the next game, or would it be abandoned like Blackout was in the year prior. Thankfully, during the lead up to Black Ops Cold War, releasing on November 13th, Activision announced that Warzone would be continuing to get support through the next year,
when
with
did
weapons
Rebirth
and
come
operators
back?
from Cold War being integrated into the free-to-play title. In addition, Verdansk, after being nuked at the end of Modern Warfare's post-launch story, would be rewound, and Warzone would be set again in the iconic city, but during the year 1984, as the headquarters of this year's new villain, Stitch. Alongside Verdansk 84 was a second map fans didn't have to wait long to jump back into. On December 16, 2020, the same day as Verdansk 84, Rebirth Island was added for the first time to Warzone, and keen observers would notice a certain similarity to the prison island we just spent the first half of this video talking about. Developed by Beanox, the Canadian support studio, who at the time was mostly responsible for porting the PC version of the game, Rebirth Island was almost a one-to-one reskin of Alcatraz. However, instead of a simple port, Alcatraz setting was moved from off the coast of San Francisco to the Soviet Union. Once an illicit Soviet base shut down by the CIA after the events of Black Ops 1. Now, in 1984, Stitch is spinning up production of Nova 6 gas once again. And so, with this new setting, came new POIs. While the cell block stayed relatively the same as the main focus of the map, the powerhouse and the industrial areas were replaced with chemical and bioweapon labs. And on the south end of the map, which used to be for water-based combat, they added a dock dubbed security area, so that space could still be used given Warzone's lack of swimming mechanics. Ruins became construction site, and the docks on the opposite end would remain mostly the same, just updated from its 1920s aesthetic to fit the modern era. In addition to this smaller map breathing life into the Warzone community, this update also saw the introduction of the Resurgence mode, borrowing the blueprint that Blackout drew up with its 40-player matches and wave respawns, but now on the newer Warzone engine, which was faster, more fluid, and had new.
How ironic is it that Treyarch made one of the most iconic modes, and now in the current Warzone, it is arguably the best mode in the game? That is pretty ironic, huh? And then, I don't know if y'all know this, but isn't, Whips, correct me if I'm wrong, Treyarch's in charge of this COD and this next cycle, right? Kind of gives you some hope a little bit, I think.
Streamlined systems geared toward keeping engagements coming. Really, the only thing it was missing compared to Blackout was a grapple gun. Please bring that back. Rebirth and Resurgence would remain in the playlist even past Verdansk 84's removal on December 9, 2021, to make room for Vanguard's newest Warzone map, Caldera. And without getting too into the weeds, the community in general didn't like Caldera as much as they did Verdansk. Similar to the Blackout map, POIs were scattered around with massive clearings between them, and with a central peak in the middle as a built-in hot drop. This resulted in too much focus on long-range engagements, and coupled with Vanguard's already lukewarm reception, this era just left a bad taste in the mouths of the players. But thankfully, where Caldera was lacking, Rebirth Island continued to deliver, as the devs released a major overhaul to the map on March 23rd,
Rebirth Island really has been a constant through this whole thing, huh? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Overhauling a handful of locations to keep it feeling fresh, and players seem to enjoy these small changes, or at least didn't hate them, which sometimes is as good as a compliment as a Call of Duty update can get. Let's fast forward just a few months now to June 22nd, 2022, where finally, after 2 years, Warzone would see its second small map enter the fray, Fortune's Keep. Developed by High Moon Studios, Fortune's Keep took players to a remote island in the Mediterranean, a brand new Resurgence map with a similar layout to Rebirth, in that it was focused on the main POI, the Keep, along with smaller locations scattered around the island like Winery and Town. These two Resurgence maps and Caldera's Battle Royale would remain as Warzone's offering for the rest of the year until November of 2022, when for the first time in Warzone's history, Activision would choose not to update Warzone alongside the newest mainline release, and opted to launch a brand new version of the free-to-play game instead, announcing the change with two words that would send shivers down the spine of most COD players: Warzone 2.0. The sequel to Warzone was meant to be a clean break, built from the ground up to accommodate the yearly map changes and constant weapon and feature integrations that just weren't planned when the original was being developed, with devs communicating that this switch was inevitable and moving to a new engine would mean great things in the long term. Spoiler alert, it did not. Warzone 2 launched on November 16th, 2022 with Al Mazrah, a large map with only the default Battle Royale game mode. Map-wise, Al Mazrah seemed to be a solid entry compared to Caldera, and reminded many of their glory days back in Verdansk. But gameplay-wise, Warzone 2 was a bit of a mess. For the sake of brevity, we won't go into too much detail, but the spark notes are no loadouts, 2v2 gulag, slow movement, and AI soldiers. Beyond that, though, Warzone 2 didn't launch with any resurgence.
I'll never forget, there's a clip of me getting, like, I got aimbotted by one of the robots when they first came out, bro. It was insane.
And it wouldn't be until the second season, a few months in, that Ashika Island would come in to fill the gap as its one and only small map. Thankfully, though, you could always boot up the original Warzone 1 if you wanted to play good old Rebirth, right? No. In an effort to drive players to the new game, Warzone 1 was rebranded as Warzone Caldera, and a limited matchmaking to only Battle Royale on Caldera, meaning no Resurgence, no Fortune's Keep, and no Rebirth Island. November 16th, 2022. That's the last day Rebirth Island could be played before it was shelved. Only a few months later, before the rest of Warzone 1 was also completely shut down on September 21st.
That's pretty crazy. I kind of forgot about all that.
And unfortunately, that was the last time anyone has played Rebirth Island, with the map going back into the vault once again. Now let's move back up to present day, March of 2024 at the time of making this video. While Rebirth Island is set to return first in Warzone Mobile, releasing later this month, console and PC players are still left waiting for it to return the beloved franchise. It's been announced that along with Fortune's Keep, which has already been released, Rebirth will be returning to Warzone at some point in 2024, although an official release date is not yet given. In the years since, many of Warzone 2's biggest issues have been smoothed out. Resurgence has returned with the aforementioned Ashika Island, Vandal, and now even Fortune's Keep, with the latter two rotating every 15 minutes and receiving the same amount of support, meaning the stage is finally set for Rebirth Island's triumphant return. And maybe, just maybe, we can see Warzone return to the heights it's fallen from years ago.
That was a really good video, T-Dog. That was just very well done. I didn't realize, I don't know. There was a lot of stuff in that video I did not realize about Rebirth Island, but what I really learned from that, to be honest with you, is that Rebirth Island really has been a constant through this entire franchise, right? From Black Ops 2, he said, but then like literally kind of like, it's like the rock through Warzone, right? Because Warzone keeps changing, where it's like Verdansk to Caldera, Warzone 2.0, Al Mazrah, where we are now. But you still have like this rock that's Rebirth Island kind of anchoring. The anchor, dude. Rebirth Island's the anchor of Warzone, man. That's crazy.